Did I miss anything?
No, we just started.
All right, so who discovered the first side channel?
Side channels are everywhere, most of the time we're unaware, but horses know we're leaking all the time. When looking in the fridge, when coughing just a bit in bridge, use side channels for fun and for the prize, cause side channels are with us all the time.
Well, the term side channel was likely coined by Kelsey et al. In 1998. I think they presented a paper with an attack on a cryptographic algorithm.
Yeah, but actually this was not the first side channel attack. The first side channel attack is often attributed to Paul Kocher. In 1996, Paul Kocher came up with a newer class of attacks. He called them timing attacks. And with this paper, he got a lot of attention, and he basically started the field of side channel security research with that.
But was that the first one? I mean, in the 1980s, someone, I think most suspect the Soviets, placed bugs in typewriters. So they more or less used the electrical noise that is generated by the type ball when it hits the paper to infer what was typed.
But was that really the first one? I've read that already in the 60s, the British Security Service also analyzed the emission of cipher devices.
But how do you know that that one was the first one?
I don't think it was. In 1943, there were already engineers at Bell Telephone Company that found when they used the teletype system, they would see spikes on the oscilloscope, and it turned out that those were decipherable and highly correlated with the deciphered input. And that was in fact such a powerful channel that they could do it from another building. So that is, I think, considered one of the earliest side channel attacks.
Actually, earlier than that, in the 1930s, there were many cryptanalysts working on breaking Enigma, so the crypto machine from the Nazis. The most known of them is Alan Turing, but there was also a team around Polish cryptanalyst Marian Rejewski.
Ah, yeah, I read about that too. And the attacks on Enigma were actually enabled by numerous observations that were not related to the actual algorithm, but other effects around that, the way the system was used. For instance, messages with unusual words or letters, or always the same word starting the message.
They found the ciphertext which did not contain any else.
Yes, and if it doesn't contain any else, that's super interesting.
Exactly. You don't know what the other end encrypted, but if you get a ciphertext with no else in there, the probability is high that the input contained else.
Yes, and that's super, super interesting. And now you could, of course, discuss, is this a side channel? Is this not a side channel? And if you think about it, the encrypted message for you is just metadata. It's derived from the actual data, the secret message, and it's derived from that, but you can't get the message out of it anymore. So for you, it's just metadata. And now, taking these additional observations and assumptions into account, with a good probability, you can infer what the message must have been, and in this case, they inferred that it was a test message containing only else.
I think I just found an even older example. It's from 1904, and it's about a horse called Clever Hans, and he made the news because he could do math. He could add, subtract, divide. He could work with fractions, tell the time. What? He could also track the calendar and understand German?
Yeah, exactly. So Clever Hans, this horse, his trainer would ask a question, right? And then the horse would stomp as many times on the ground as the correct number would be, like 2 plus 3, and then it would stomp 5 times on the ground. And that's pretty clever. And there was a psychologist, Oskar Pfungst, who analyzed this in more detail and analyzed whether there's something weird going on, because he couldn't explain this phenomenon.
Exactly, and Pfungst discovered that Clever Hans knew the answer even if another person would ask the question, not the trainer.
Even better, Clever Hans knew the answer even if he couldn't see the trainer. So it was not the trainer just telling him how often to stomp or when to stop. He knew the answer even if he couldn't see the trainer.
But he only got it right if the person who asked or the audience would know the answer.
Yep.
So what A mind-reading horse? I don't believe that.
Well, probably not. Probably not a mind-reading horse, but it led Oskar Pfungst to the realization that we are communicating subconsciously all the time without noticing.
Right. Maybe Hans wasn't clever enough to acquire all these technical human intellectual skills, but he was clever enough to use a covert channel with his trainer and a side channel with the audience.
Wait. We should give the audience a definition of a covert channel. Maybe something like it's a side channel where you control both the sending and the receiving side. Whereas in comparison with a traditional side channel where you usually do not control the sending side, but the receiving side, because often the sender doesn't want to communicate his secret information to you.
Yeah, maybe and we could try to run the same experiment as Oskar Pfungst here. So maybe Teresa and Claudio, Claudio, can you write down a number? And Teresa, if you sit over there so that you cannot see the number. Let's try whether we can do that. And
What do we do?
everyone else looks at the number, focuses on the number and thinks of this number really, really hard. And Teresa will take a look at us while she claps, and then she will figure out which number it is. So Oskar Pfungst said this will work.
Let's try it. I'm curious if it works. So, okay. Is it 4?
Yes.
What?
Wow, this really
But
works.
seriously, this is a big problem. Not just as we leak information, but also this might introduce bias into experiments.
Exactly. So this was actually the start of double-blind experiments in many fields. So if you think about medicine, for instance, if you want to test a new medicine, you need to perform a double-blind experiment where neither of the two people, neither the examiner nor the person that gets the medicine knows what they actually are getting. And it's similar in other fields. So if you don't want to introduce bias, you need a double-blind experiment.
Didn't lie detectors also become popular around the time? So maybe Clever Hans wasn't the first one. So maybe they're older even than that.
But I think it could be a good topic for our episode. I mean, the students could try what Clever Hans did for themselves and align their communication. And they could also use that while playing the mind.
Yes, that's a great example. The mind, I have that here.
Oh, awesome.
Hi Jonas.
Hi.
Do you know this game?
No.
I found it under the couch. I think it's one of Daniel's old games. I just read the instructions. And it's like a cooperative card game. Mm-hmm. You wanna try?
Yeah, how does it work?
Yeah, so we have these number cards here. Mm-hmm. And we have to put them down in ascending order. So the smaller
Sounds
cards
easy.
go first and the larger cards go on top of them. Yeah, There's one problem. You're not allowed to communicate.
Oh, okay.
It sounds weird, right?
Let's try.
Yeah, sure. So we're in the first level. We each draw one card.
Okay.
And we have to put them down in ascending order.
Yeah.
And also before we start playing, we have to synchronize with, we lay both our hands up, and if we start, we just put them away.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's try that. So, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. And we lost. Oh, nice. Okay.
How should this work? Okay, let's try another round.
Yes. And you draw first again.
Okay.
I draw second. Okay. Ready? Yes! See? That's how it works.
That's easy.
Very nice. So let's go for level 2, I think.
Okay, okay. So now we get 2 cards.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. Ah, shit.
No.
Okay,
We were close, we were close.
Yes.
But you know that you've been cheating, right?
Why? We didn't
Well,
say anything.
but the face expression that you had and Jonas' hesitation on the movement, I mean, that's
How
all
should
not
it work
allowed.
then?
Well, I don't want to spoil the game for you. The fun is figuring out how it works.
Okay, let's try playing another round.
Oh, there you're cheating. You're nodding while counting.
Come on, how should this work? Okay, yeah. Let's try again. Yeah, we need new cards, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, fair game.
Oh, no, you can't just tap with the hand. That's also cheating. It's not allowed.
Okay. So...
Oh, no.
Yes.
No. I've seen how you look at this clock. Let's...
But we did not communicate with each other.
Yes, but a shared clock is also not allowed. That's also cheating. You're not supposed to do that. But you can do it without, I'm sure.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Whoa.
See?
Okay, so...
We can do it.
Okay, what was your trick?
So I was just counting in my head.
Yes, me too. And we started syncing at the same time.
And you were hoping that you were counting at the same speed.
Yes.
And it worked out.
It's like a shared clock, but not shared.
Yeah. And of course, once you see the number where the other player is at, you have a synchronization point again.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good.
I think we should add a slow motion sequence of this. Like on the bottom left of our screen, you can show like a time step that slowly counts up, and next to it you have a counter of which card should be played next. So we sync this with the timestamp, and there you can easily see that they put down a card and exactly when the counter hits it. So
Yes. And this way you can see that they managed to play all cards correctly, without any mistakes and without actively communicating with each other, like a synchronized clock.
Yes.
Level 5. Daniel, you want to play with us?
Sure, why not? But I must tell you that the game gets a bit boring after some time. Ah, yeah, I see. And then in this scene, I would basically play some rounds of the mind with them.
Well, we wanted to explain side channels to them. Why are we focusing on games so much?
Well, it's all part of the bigger picture. I mean, we want to teach the audience the way of thinking, the mindset, a methodology, how to find side channels that you can then exploit.
You're talking about synchronized clocks here, right?
Yes, here it's about synchronized clocks, and they are the basis for many attacks. So here it's important to understand the value of this shared or synchronized clock. If you have that, then you can coordinate without actively exchanging information. So this is the basis of many covert channels. You, for instance, agree on the timing, and then you do something, or the other one does something, and then you can exchange information with that binary signal, for instance.
So if you have a shared clock, for example, you can send for 1 second the first bit, for the next second the next bit, so a 0, a 1, and it's really easy.
Yeah. Nice. But as I said, this was too easy now. Just communication then at some point.
It reminds me of classical communication protocols, yes.
Yeah. Of course, then, I mean, you could encode things, you can transmit this information now covertly, or you agree beforehand on some shared time resource or something, and that allows you to communicate or coordinate. And with covert channels, they internally, of course, what they use is a side channel. And for instance, our side channel here is timing.
Which introduces noise.
Yes.
But also normal communication protocols have noise, right?
Yes, as I said, you could use some protocol there, encode the same information 3 times, and then compute a majority vote or something. You can use
that's really inefficient.
But you could use like more and more sophisticated methods, like if you have a multiplication where you have 2 odd numbers and multiply them together, the result is also odd. And then you have an easy way and approach to check if the result was correct. Or at least to find out if it was not correct.
You will find some errors, but there are more sophisticated ways to check for errors, more complex techniques that can then detect or even correct more errors. But these communication errors already existed for a long time in completely different communication protocols. For instance, thinking back to when people used smoke signals to communicate across far distances. And they would communicate different things with that. For instance, whether they have food or whether there's a gathering.
Daniel, is this Morse code? I doubt they would use Morse code for smoke signals. It wasn't invented until 1837.
Communicate different things with that. For instance, whether they have food or whether there's a gathering. What?
ASCII? That's even worse. That wasn't invented until 1963.
But it's good enough to explain the point. And of course, you could also imagine where someone now tries to, just start a fire, or maybe I'm just making barbecue and therefore have a lot of smoke.
But doesn't this make the smoke a side channel?
I don't think so. It's a communication channel. But if you go back to the definition of a side channel, it's retrieving data from the metadata that's communicated. But if you directly encode data into the smoke, it's just communication. It's not a side channel.
That's right. I mean, if you look at the smoke and infer that someone encoded something in there, I think you could argue whether or not it's a side channel. But in general, the line is very blurry between those, between side channel, covert channel in some cases. Well, the intention there is different. But for covert channel and communication channel, I would say it's super blurry, the line, whether something is using an unintended communication channel or an intended one. For a covert channel, I think in many cases you would say they are stealthy. But that's also not true for all the covert channels.
Maybe we should point the audience to the first covert channel.
That would be Lampson, A Note for the Confinement Problem, 1973. And it says he coined the term covert channel and defined it as channels not intended for information transfer at all.
And that definition makes a lot of sense in the context of computers and software. But as soon as you leave the computer world, things get really blurry. And smoke signals, clearly a form of communication. But is smoke an intended communication channel? Probably not. Take another one, radiation. Is radiation an intended channel for communication? Probably not. But we're using it all the time, right? So it gets blurry what a covert channel is and what not.
And with that, we conclude our introduction to covert channels.